What is up, guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Virtual Athlete Podcast. This episode is brought to you by my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/SnaggleJ. If you enjoy watching live franchise sports gaming action, make sure you head over to twitch.tv/SnaggleJ. Hit me with that sweet follow. We stream Thursday nights and Sunday nights. Some miscellaneous times in there as well, but we're guaranteed to be live on Thursdays and Sundays. So head on over to twitch.tv/SnaggleJ and hit me with that follow. On this episode of the Virtual Athlete Podcast, I'm going to be taking a look at some new content in MLB The Show 18 and actually may say some positive things about the game. We're going to look at a tuner that was just released for NHL 19, and we're also going to talk about the fun factor of NCAA Football 14. Now, before we jump into the MLB The Show talk, I would like to give a big shout out to Cooperstown Kurt, Brian the Weasel, Millennial Nate, and Big Red Machine, the cast and production guys behind This Week in MLB The Show, who recently wrapped up their second season of podcasting operations, but their first full season of live show. It is yet to be determined, I believe, if they're going to be back for next year. I know it's kind of up in the air, but I just want to give them a quick shout out and appreciation for all the things they have done for the MLB The Show community. I've had the opportunity to be on their podcast version before. They've always spoke very highly of me. I've always spoke very highly of them, and I think there's a wonderful mutual respect there. So big ups to Kurt, Brian, Nate, and Big Red Machine for an unbelievable season of programming. And all the best with whatever you guys decide to do in the future. MLB The Show released a swath of content this past week and detailed some of their content plans going forward. Also introducing 3 new Immortal cards, a pack exclusive diamond, and outlining 5 other Immortals that are going to be jumping into the game. So the 3 new Immortals that they revealed were Immortal George Brett, Immortal reliever Dennis Eckersley, and Immortal Mike Trout. Now, all 3 of these cards are going to be able to be acquired without having to do any sort of trade-in exchanges for souvenirs, which I know a lot of people were big fans of. So right now you can get the George Brett. Basically all 3 of these Immortals are tied to the same program. So right now what they did is they released a Future Stars set of programs. It's 6 separate programs. Basically there is 1 Future Star for every MLB team. There are 6 of them that are diamonds. They're grouped together by division. Basically once you unlock, I think you need to unlock all of the Future Stars diamonds, and that will get you the 40% that you need to get George Brett. I'm pretty sure you need all the diamond Future Stars. So basically you start each group of Future Stars missions with 1 card. You have to do in-game tasks. They're pretty straightforward, get 2 hits and an RBI, score 3 runs, whatever. And then you'll get the next one, and you'll get the next one, and you keep going on and on until you get to the diamond one. And like I said, then those diamonds will allow you to get George Brett. You will not be able to acquire Dennis Eckersley until after the MLB's Finest programs come out, which is, kind of how SDS honors some of the better players from the season. It's kind of like their end of the season awards is the Finest collection. And then you will not be able to get the Mike Trout until after the postseason missions are out. Now, within the missions, I think it's 160% total. And obviously you only need 100% for Mike Trout. Now, I find it kind of funny that, people were clamoring that they were so excited that they were getting more content, and then they were upset that they couldn't get them all right away. Like, these are the same people who were upset that the Immortals were released too early. And then they announced 3 more that have a elongated window because they're attached to future programs. And they're like, oh my God, we don't want to wait. Like, At what point does complaining for the sake of complaining just make you look stupid? Like it's sad that that's what it's come to in the community now. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. They are trying. They are pumping out, in my opinion, some very good content. One thing that I floated the idea of on Twitter that I would like to see, I feel like this Future Stars program would be better suited as an early season thing. Now, I know, obviously, they have to wait until September for a lot of these guys to get called up so that they can get in the MLBPA. MLB can get the licensing for them and then transfer it to Sony San Diego. But I would like to see them hold these guys back and do this. This, to me, is a perfect April set of programs. I really think it is. Build your team up with some young, exciting players early in the season. Get yourself some low diamonds. Be able to grind towards, a couple of higher diamonds. Again, I definitely had some dissenting opinions about this, but me personally, I feel like the Future Stars program would fit better in the early season because none of these guys are players you're going to use. You're not going to be using low diamonds Future Stars on your team now. The only guy that you're going to have any interest in is the 91 Shohei Ohtani, who is pack exclusive. That's the only guy that you're going to have interest in. The rest of the guys are just guys that you're using to get to Brett, Eckersley, and Trout. So, again, I feel like it'd be better early in the season, but, it's one of those things where it is here because it's here, I guess. I don't know if it's something they have any interest in changing. But overall, I was very impressed. It's some good content. I was very impressed with the upbeat attitude the guys had on the stream. It's been a very, very, very tough year for the Sony San Diego team, for the MLB The Show community. Again, the community is increasingly negative about this game. A lot of people, not necessarily an opinion I share, but a lot of people I saw on social media said it's too little too late. That their heart is in the right place, but it's too little too late. They've moved on. Again, I don't necessarily agree. I just got done playing MLB The Show on stream for the first time in almost 6 months. Somewhat enjoyed myself. Obviously, I got to work on my game a little bit, but a lot of people have moved on. The majority of the bigger MLB The Show content creators are now playing Madden, NBA, NHL. They sprinkle MLB The Show in a day or two a week, but for the most part, they've moved on. They came back a little bit to grind away at some of this content. They now have the George Brett, and they've gone away again while they wait for the finest programs to come out. It's an odd relationship that exists right now with Sony San Diego and the community. We know Sony is pulling the strings. We know Sony is very, very conservative when it comes to what they allow the team to say, what they allow the team to do. There has been widespread issues with disconnects in games as of late. For the most part, Sony hasn't said anything. Historically, when there are issues with games, Sony's MO is acknowledge it very briefly and then do a post-mortem when it's fixed. We've seen that with the server issues from the last few years at launch. We don't get a lot of information while it's happening. And then when it's fixed, it's okay. Here's what happened. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we did to fix it. Here's what we're working on to ensure that hopefully it's not an issue in the future. That's how Sony rolls. They prefer to keep their cards close to the vest until at which time they are comfortable with what the results are, and then they're comfortable with sharing the results. And given the way that, and I mean, we're obviously talking about EA Sports here, given the way that the various EA products interact with the communities, immediately acknowledging issues that there are fixes being worked on, the MLB The Show community is not like that. And it rubs people the wrong way. It has been a long summer for this game. Under the hood, I still think it's a fantastic game. Offline, it is an unbelievable representation of the game of baseball. The most accurate representation of the game of baseball that we've ever seen. Franchise mode is still super fun. Again, you know, Franchise Nation is never satisfied with what they get. Franchise mode is a lot of fun. I still have high hopes for MLB The Show 19. But yeah, lots of new content. So, I mean, if you're still playing the game, or if you're interested in jumping back in for some new stuff, there's a lot of stuff to do. Jump back in, head to your program section, and take a look. Moving on now to some winter sporting action. NHL 19, EA Sports released a new tuner last week that was primarily aimed at softening the penalties surrounding poke checks. I snapped at a few people on Twitter who immediately said they liked it the way it was and that now EA was unnerfing the poke check, because poke check was basically eliminated. You had to be very smart. With the poke check, there was a lot of penalties. Anyone who watched me stream Franchise, the penalties for poke checking were huge. And people were immediately like, we like the poke checking the way it was, don't change it. And my first question was, have you played with the tuner yet? And their answer was no. Shut up. Like, don't bash a patch or a tuner when you haven't even tried it. We downloaded the tuner last week. We played it on stream Thursday night. I personally didn't notice that big of a difference. We still took an inordinate amount of poke checking penalties, something that I am actively working on. I really didn't notice that much of a difference. Now, I did talk to a few people who said they did notice a difference online, but that it was a happy medium between NHL 18 and 19, which I think a lot of people were big fans of. Since the tuner came out, I've seen mostly positive things about it. So hopefully this is a good sign to come for EA and NHL 19. I'm still enjoying the game immensely. I think it's a lot of fun. Again, I still maintain that it's a serious contender for Sports Game of the Year right now. And that's saying a lot because there's a lot of good ones out there. And with Forza Horizon 4 coming, I think that's going to be in the conversation as well. If you consider that a sports game, some do, some don't. I'm kind of on the fence about it. Whereas Forza Horizon's not your quote-unquote conventional racing game. But yeah, and that's something we're going to look at in the next few weeks as we head into October and November and start breaking down, where we think Sports Game of the Year could land. I haven't put enough thought into it to give you an idea where I think it could go. But I definitely think NHL 19 is going to be in the conversation for sure. Speaking of games that we wish could be in the conversation for Sports Game of the Year, let's go back down memory lane and talk about NCAA 14. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this is because we were streaming some of this on Saturday. We did a special Saturday morning stream. I finally picked up a splitter for my PS3 to be able to stream this bad boy. And we played some NCAA 14. We started a Duke franchise. It's funny how well this game holds the test of time under the hood. Obviously, graphically, it's not, anywhere near what we're getting 5 years later. Obviously, it's last generation graphics, first of all. But under the hood, the nuts and bolts of Dynasty Mode and NCAA 14 still hold up very, 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 very well against the franchises of 2018. Obviously, the recruiting system, so well done. So many choices and paths and decisions to make on an every week basis. Who are you going to allocate your points to? Who are you going to offer a scholarship to? Are you too far out of the hunt with this guy, and should you reallocate those points to another guy? Do you think maybe you still have a chance with this guy? Do you want this guy enough to go the extra mile? Scouting a guy, does a guy fit your scheme? Does he fit what you want to do? Do you have too much depth at that position that maybe, you don't really need that guy and he's going to be upset? Do you make promises that you can't keep? The recruiting system is unreal. You have the whole team builder concept as well, which we still don't have in Madden. And by all accounts, we probably never will have something like that. I don't think it's something that's in the cards. The NCAA 14 franchise / dynasty experience, in my opinion, is still one that has not been topped. Regardless of how much I sit here and pump the tires of NHL 19's franchise mode, it still doesn't hold a candle to what EA was able to do with NCAA Football 14. And maybe that is a testament to some of the freedoms that they have by using college football. Some of the different things you could do, again, with All-Americans and the intricacies of the sport and bowl presentations and bowl games and, weekly rankings and stuff. It's just, there is so much stuff to do to distract you from actually playing football games. It's amazing. And even, all these years later, to fire it up and to play it, it still really honors the test of time. And you don't really think, you don't play Dynasty Mode in NCAA 14 for 2 hours and say, wow, this mode is old. That's the thing. You play it, and it doesn't show its age, is what I'm trying to say. You feel as though you're playing a current day franchise mode, which again is a huge kudos to the team that made that game. Obviously, there is still a very large section of the community that would like to see that game back. And while I don't think that's something that's ever going to happen, there obviously is a hole in that part of the community and in the hearts of people who are familiar with that franchise. We were talking about it on stream and looking back and saying, I remember the Joey Harrington cover, which was 2003, and some of the memories I had with that game, running with the University of Miami Hurricanes and Willis McGahee, and all the way up to NCAA 14 and some of my creative schools and winning national titles. And we played a game, Duke versus Memphis, went to overtime, a lot of fun. You go back and click through some of that stream, I'm smiling from ear to ear the entire time. And isn't that what video games is all about, really, is smiling from ear to ear. So yeah, NCAA football, we miss you. If you still have copies of NCAA 14, play them. Show them some love. Hit me up on Twitter @SnaggleJ. Tell me who you're running with in Dynasty, and how you're doing. Anyways, guys, that is going to do it for this week's episode of the Virtual Athlete Podcast. Appreciate you listening. Hope you will subscribe on whatever platform it is you are currently listening to. If you'd like to reach out to me for comments, questions, concerns, you can get me on Twitter at SnaggleJ. As a matter of fact, you can get me on all social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, anywhere at SnaggleJ. Chances are I'm probably on there. And also, if you ever want to ask any questions, reach out. We got the mailbag that we're going to start doing at the end of the show. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening. And until next time, peace.